On this lonely road trying to make it home. I don't remember the rest of the words to this song. Hello everybody, thank you for joining me today. I do truly appreciate it. Good to see you. Thank you. Come on in. I want to talk about a book today. Today I want to talk about a book that I read recently. And it was, in a word, fantastic. There's a TV show that came out, I don't exactly remember when, 2010-ish, somewhere around there, called Justified, starring Timothy Olyphant. Olyphant, ever hear of it? Well, long story short, I stumbled into a DVD set of season 1 of Justified. Whipped it out one Saturday morning with my wife, and we watched the whole daggum thing, and then said, shoot, I wonder if the Walmart has any more of this show. And I think we watched season 2, and then we had to wait for it to get caught up. Wait to be able to see it. I think that's as far as it went. But my wife and I loved that show. And Timothy Olyphant played a US Marshal named Raylan Givens. It was set primarily in Kentucky. I think their office was in Lexington, but the bulk of the show took place in Raylan's hometown or home area, Arlen, which I think is a county. Arlen, Kentucky, I don't know, not an expert on the location, but Arlen, Kentucky was where a bulk of that series and show took place. And now the show started with a bang. It started with an old-fashioned Wild West shootout in the city of Miami. And we kind of step into it not knowing anything about this backstory. Raylan walks up to this, it was like a party. It looked like it was the top floor of a building, swimming pool area. I don't remember exactly what. A beautiful place in Miami, Florida. He walks up to this guy sitting at a table, said, I told you to get out of town. I give you 24 hours. Next thing you know, the guy pulls a gun, Raylan shoots him dead. Boom. That's the way that series started. And then Raylan was off to Kentucky. The trouble in Miami, they sent him back to Kentucky. He viewed it as a punishment, and I think the marshal's office did too. But I want to talk to you about a book called Pronto. And maybe I knew, but I didn't really know I knew. I didn't knowingly know that Justified was based on a series of books by an author named Elmore Leonard, until one day I was at his big bookstore in Jacksonville, Florida, and another author that I love called Ian Rogers. Look him up. Fantastic author. But he had told me that one of his favorite authors, maybe he said his favorite, I don't know, was Elmore Leonard. He recommended a couple books, and I was in Jacksonville at this big bookstore, massive, Chamblin Book Mine, and I was looking at Elmore Leonard books. And in the stacks and stacks of Elmore Leonard books, there was one called Raylan. I pulled it out. Sure enough, that book had a picture, Justified, hit TV show, something like that. It was a book tie-in, a TV show tie-in version. And I just, wow, I didn't know it was based on that. I got excited. I bought that copy. Then a little later, I figured out that was a little later in the series. The first book in that Raylan Givens saga was called Pronto. And I don't know where the word pronto comes in. I don't know. Pronto, fast, I think, to me is what it means. A Spanish word. I don't know. Maybe it somehow ties in. I didn't get that part. So the title is iffy. But how about the book? Naturally, I hadn't read any Elmore Leonard stuff, but this was the impetus I needed to jump right in. I read Pronto, and I want to tell you a little bit about it. First of all, the story of Pronto is not familiar to me at all, having watched all the Justified episodes at least twice, some of them like the first season probably 4 times. The story of Pronto is in no way familiar, but it's kind of neat, and I won't tell you what it is, but the finale, the climax of this book, that action, if you're talking about an action movie, that action showdown sequence is familiar. And it's fantastic. And it is everything. It encompasses everything that makes Raylan, buttons him up, makes him a great character. Raylan Givens, and we'll get into the story a little bit. I won't spoil stuff for you. But Raylan Givens in the book is practically Timothy Olyphant's portrayal in the show. He's a tall, slim, very easygoing fella that kind of, I don't want to say goes with the flow, but he kind of takes them as they come. But he's got this strange sort of almost aloof confidence to him, where he's not sweating anything. He's not worried about anything. Even the bad stuff, he's not worried about it. And I think it's really cool how Timothy Olyphant seemed to hit that character. The way I read it, it was the same thing as the show. It was really cool, and that's why one of the things that makes me love this book. Some of the characters in here feel familiar, and there's a lot of books in the series, and I haven't gone very far to catch on, but there's characters in here that feel familiar. There's a character called Harry Arno. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Raylan's dad in the TV show, and I think his name was Arlo. Can't remember now. It reminds me a little bit of him, although Harry Arno's not Raylan's dad. It's kind of eerily familiar. As well as there's a love interest that buds that reminds me a little bit of a character in Justified. Somebody who should not be involved with the US Marshal. And ex-wife. And some of that kind of stuff. But so right off the bat, I strongly recommend Pronto. I won't say it's a 5-star book, but I will say this. I was more satisfied with Pronto than I have been with other books that I would say were 5-star books. If that makes sense. If it doesn't, I don't really know how to explain it. It was a book that I tripped my trigger. I really dug it. I loved every moment of it. And I immediately jumped right into the sequel, which I have around here somewhere, right up here. The sequel is called Writing the Rap, where we get some of familiar characters getting in more trouble. And of course, Raylan Givens is the man. But we're not going to talk about that one today. We're talking about Pronto. I could read and read and read, and I will. I intend to read them all because I really enjoy it. I hope Elmore Leonard kept it up throughout the series. But this book, like I said, the story is much different. The setting is much different. This book, surprisingly, watching Justified and then jumping into the book that it's based on, this book is not in Kentucky. In fact, it's hardly even in South Florida or Miami. We start off, Raylan is a cop, or a US Marshal. He's a cop. He's a US Marshal in South Florida, the Miami area. And he has to guard somebody, protect somebody. And this is somebody that he has guarded and protected before. He's a U.S. Marshal, and part of his duties would be protecting witnesses, transporting people from here to there, and stuff like that. Kind of like security, government security, oftentimes for bad guys. And well, he's got a history that we get into with his character named Harry Arno, who keeps the sports book for a guy named Jimmy Cap, who's kind of like the local mob boss for that area in South Florida. And Jimmy Cap, he's not like the ones I've seen in the movies. He's lackadaisical and lazy and incompetent and bad judgment and doesn't really care. He's got the power and so be it. But Harry Arno keeps the sports books for Jimmy Cap. Harry skims, like they say everybody skims. He skims, but the FBI wants Jimmy Cap. They decide they want to take him down, and they decide that they're going to get Harry in trouble with his boss by making up stories about how he's skimming way more than the acceptable, allowable practices have been. Fakes it, a fake witness, all that stuff to try to get him in trouble with his boss, so that now He has to turn to government to testify, to go into their security, or else he'll be killed. And that's kind of where we're at. Now, Raylan Givens has to protect him, but they have a backstory. Raylan let this guy go on accident. The guy got away from Raylan years earlier. Raylan had to watch him before. The guy goes into the bathroom and escapes. And Raylan's left with egg on his face, ends up having to go teach firearms instruction, like they mentioned in the show quite a bit. Has to go teach firearms for a while, and then he ends up in Miami. He was married in the Atlanta area, working out of that office. Got divorced, left his wife and family. He's working in Miami. They're still in Georgia. The way it goes, he follows his career. A strained relationship with the wife and children. But now he's having to watch Harry again. But Raylan is the kind of a character that it seems like nothing phases him. He understands the problems. He understands the complications, but he doesn't seem to let it affect him too much. And he learns while he's with people, he's asking them questions, weird questions, off the wall questions, carrying on conversations about this, that, and the other. But once again, now he's watching Harry for the second time. Harry slips Raylan once again. Goes to the bathroom and boom, he's gone. And you'd think everybody'd say, holy crap, how stupid are you? You could let him go again. And his logic is, it happens. What was I going to do about it? But he's decided now that he's going to go get Harry himself. Take some vacation time, go get Harry and bring him back. Because the mob boss wants him dead. Jimmy Cap wants him dead, of course. They think he's going to testify against him. And due to the previous conversations that Raylan would have with people like Harry, he had an idea of where Harry wanted to go. Harry had talked about a place in Italy, a small town in Italy that he loved, and he had reasons and ties to different people that were there and stuff like that. Raylan knows he's going there, so he goes to Italy on vacation to go get Harry, convince Harry to come back, and keep him alive in the process. Meanwhile, the FBI is after him, and the mob is after him. There's a bad dude, one bad dude called Ezra Pound, the Zip. And he's, the way it's described is he's like an old Italian mob killer. Bad to the bone. Kills without remorse, understands killing. And so he's the guy. You want him to kill somebody, he's the guy. Well, Ezra Pound has made a deal with Jimmy Cap. If Harry dies, can I have his sports book? And Jimmy Cap says, I don't care, take it, whatever. So now the Zip is going to go kill Harry. And Raylan's trying to protect Harry. And the plot thickens. Dun, dun, dun. But most of this book takes place in Italy. And it's really, really good. That part of it to me made it almost sound like, why do I want to read that? That's not what I expected, but I was wrong. It's very good. We get some great characters. Another character in there that shows how incompetent Jimmy Cap is. He's got this guy named Nicky Testa, and Nicky is this muscled up bodybuilder type guy that can't stop looking at himself in the mirror, struts around, bowed up, acting tough, but he's really not tough. He's really soft. And he gets exposed over and over again by not only Ezra Pound, but Raylan Givens and others. But I strongly recommend you read this book. And I rate it 4.5 out of 5 stars, saying that I liked this book more than other books that I would have rated 5 stars. It was just an enjoyable read. I really can't say anything bad about it. Elmore Leonard, I don't know Elmore Leonard well, but I'll say this about this book. Elmore Leonard focuses a lot on characters, not as much on plot and storyline and stuff like that. So there is a story, there is a plot, but I feel like the main effort is in these characters, who they are and what they do. And that doesn't mean that he's overly detailed, you know every little thing about them, but developing these characters, their personalities, getting you to understand them, getting you to care about them. And I'm the type of reader that I care most about character. You give me good characters and I'm in. You give me a decent story and great characters, and you give me a good finish that I can really dig, and I'm going to love your book. I'm going to love your movie, whatever the case may be. And that's exactly what Elmore Leonard did. Enough to get me to jump out of this right into book 2. I finished book 2 and I liked it a lot too. We'll talk about that at a later date. But in my story, I went and I bought this book. The first copy of Pronto that I got was this one right here. It is the advanced review copy, the ARC. It's the book that they give out to reviewers and things like that to promote books, typically. Now, it says not for resale. Well, I bought it on eBay, and I bought it. ARCs usually come first, and it is signed by Elmore Leonard, and I didn't have anything signed by Elmore Leonard. So I bought this book. It was cheap enough. Apparently, Elmore Leonard's autograph, even though he's a big-name author that wrote a lot of books that became big movies, apparently his autograph isn't that expensive, because I got it for a pretty good price. And I also got a first edition, first print hardcover of Pronto. And this one also signed by Elmore Leonard. I'm a lover of signed books. I'm a collector of things, a reader of books, and I love signed. Signed is always better. This is a first edition, first print. You see the number line goes all the way down to 1 there. But, again, I got it at a very reasonable price. It's not that expensive, so I don't know. The artwork on the cover, the graphic design is your thing. It leaves a lot to be desired. Obviously, the name Elmore Leonard was good enough to sell books, because they sure didn't put much work into art or design or anything like that. But he wrote at least 2 fantastic books, and Pronto is one of them I strongly recommend. Now, I don't know if at some point the writing of the book's story started to drift more towards Arlen, Kentucky. I don't know any of that stuff, but that is something for me to find out, and I'm looking forward to it. I have treats ahead. And with that being said, I can think of no more lies to tell. So thank you for your time. I do truly appreciate it, and say la vie, baby. Doo-doo.
Bam! Peanut butter and jam!